something, put something down.
I just realized it wasn't recorded. I'm so sorry.
And so, the idea is like you get to be on a table. Your team, my team, and me are doing a ceremony for you, and we're leading you through a process where by the time we've kind of gone like down into the dirt and come up metaphorically, we've like taken that thing from you or whatever is like keeping you from moving to the next phase. Does that make sense? I'm trying to work on like explaining that better. But it's basically like a ceremony where you don't have to do a ton of work because you've already done all the work, right? Like you've already done so much emotional work to get to where you are. And sometimes you really just need someone else to like pull it off of you. And I don't think we put a lot of emphasis on that, especially in America. It's like you are an individual and you must be able to do everything yourself. It's like, no, oftentimes we need someone else to help clear and take stuff off of us. So it's kind of a dramatic ceremony to do that.
We talk about community death work all the time and community grief and how you really can't do this work. And you really, I mean, we've hurt ourselves so much in America by becoming so separated and saying, oh, I can handle all this on my own. I don't need anybody. I always ask people, do you know your neighbors? And a lot of people don't even know their neighbors anymore. And so when we're going through this alone, I think it's beautiful that you offer those services and that you give that community support, even if it's just a few people. That's a community. That's what people need.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and it does make sense that by the time that you've reached this ritual, which is like the pinnacle of the work that you're doing, they have already done the work. And so you're ceremoniously and symbolically coming in and saying, I recognize all of the work that you've done here. Let's move this over here now, right? And they're fully on board with it.
Yeah, and that's the other part is like we're honoring everything that you've gone through to get there. It's not like just let that go. It's like, well, we need to really give that space for like you did a lot of work and probably a lot of that work hurt. So we got to honor that in order to fully kind of get to the other side. And also I always have to make sure with the funerals that people are actually ready for the change. Because sometimes we're like, yeah, I'm really ready. I'm ready to move on from this thing. But like, there's still some residual work, or we aren't ready for what life looks like without that thing that we're holding on to. So we got to make sure people are ready because stuff moves so quickly after a funeral that sometimes people are like, oh, remember how I like didn't like my job and I didn't like my relationship and I didn't like where I lived? Well, suddenly my partner broke up with me, I got laid off, and I have to find a new place to live, And it's like, yeah, that can be really scary. Let's make sure you're like ready for that new life, So
How long does the process usually last? Like how long do people work with you?
in
Not the 90 minutes, but the, leading up to. What does it look like?
There's usually a lot of like back and forth conversation just to make sure like they understand the process of a funeral, they understand they're ready. Usually lately I've had people where we're doing like intuitive sessions first and we're kind of feeling out is there anything else that needs to be done, right, or like tied up before we do this session. So sometimes we're doing a couple sessions beforehand, and then yeah, the funeral is kind of like the cherry on top.
And since I pressed record a few minutes late, we're talking about metaphorical funerals that Hannah does through Morning Light Divination, her company. So you can learn more about her online. And just wanted to say that one more time. We didn't get to say how stressed out we were, or we did say that, but the recording doesn't show that. So now all you folks catching the recording know that I have COVID and my brain isn't working well and we had some stress. And that's why we're so happy that Hannah's here today to help us learn some tools and some self-care that we can bring into our lives. Because I think I can say that that's probably one of the hardest parts of doing this work for me. And people think working with families is the hardest part. I'm like, no, taking care of myself has always been the hardest part. So we're really grateful to have you join us today.
Yeah, and it sounds obvious, but it's so true that when we're under resourced and under supported, the bare minimum of who we are, like our potential comes out. When I am not being supported and not filling my own cup, I'm crankier, my brain doesn't work as well. I have way less to give other people. And so we have to really remember that, self-care is a huge part of our obligation to ourselves if we're going to commit to doing this work.
Yeah. I'm curious if you two know what your barriers are for self-care.
Like what gets in the way of us and doing it optimally? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
That's a good question. And I feel like my go-to answer is a little bit of bullshit. Like I feel like my go-to answer is like, well, my kids and I'm busy.
I was literally going to say kids, like
Yeah.
my kids.
But it's kind of bullshit because how many hours a day do I like mindlessly scroll or do something with my time that's less good for me and less productive? I guess good for me and productive don't have to go together in the envelope of self-care. So I don't know. Like I would need to dig a little deeper to see what it really is underneath that more convenient excuse.
Yeah.
That's good though.
Sarah, you raised your hand. Did you want to share?
Hi, honeys.
Hi.
Sorry you're not feeling good with COVID.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm doing okay.
Yeah, it's good to see y'all.
It's great to see you.
I wanted to jump in. Hannah, actually, I could identify my barrier for self-care if you're interested in that.
Absolutely.
I was actually just going through that this morning. And I believe that it is linked on a pragmatic level, how it shows up in like the world, like I guess on an interpersonal psychological level, which probably everybody in this room is going to relate to, is related to personal boundaries and saying no. And knowing when to say no and when to say yes. And it's actually not as complicated as it becomes, but when you are a person who is not just an empathetic person, but an empath, so you're actually experiencing things differently, then, I mean, I think that we're calling a lot of neurodivergency like some manifestations of like more metaphysical things. But what I'm saying is that like codependency, right, in a psychological way, a lot of people who are actually spiritual empaths, which I would say death workers, that's what we are. Like I've never met anybody that does the work surrounding death and grief that is not sharing some issue, some like things like with interpersonal relationships in their lives that have to do with like codependency. Codependency is not like what we think it is. Like there's also like soul contract involved in codependency, I think, where it's like because we're overly responsible for the emotional well-being of people that we love. When you're a person who loves humanity and is doing the work of the grieving of the world, like with the world, and you're a person who actually experiences things with such a degree of no separation that it's painful, like then like that's when we start to fragment. So like that's kind of like a way zoom out. Sorry. So if you're not used to me, like some people know me in here, but some of us, this is the first time you've met me. I tend to like zoom way out into this like metaphysical like area and then like have to come down to earth or whatever. But
it's so enriching. Don't apologize for it. That is how you operate.
So I guess that what I'm saying is like my barrier to self-care is often that like I can literally walk through hell and not feel my feet burning for so long that like I almost don't believe it if it's not that painful. I almost don't know how to it's like sometimes I have to be reminded by those around me, like, to like, hey, doesn't that hurt? Like, do you know what I'm saying? So that's my barrier is like oftentimes is being overly responsible for the emotional output that I'm constantly like receiving.
That's really good. Like we get too tough in a way, like too like like it's fine, I don't need to deal with that. Or even like if I slow down enough to do this I don't know if I can get back there again with ease, those
right. Like on a pragmatic level,
so often like yeah.
Did y'all hear that? That was my cat. she just yelled at us. On a pragmatic level, I guess like in the work where like something that has intercepted that is like, so that I'm not saying yes to everything for everybody, is to like have a resource list available of other people that I can assign these tasks to, because because I can pretty much do everything for everybody. Like this is what we realize when we are like single mothers, and we're also like navigating the world as a person in a body with a womb, which is totally fucked and intense. And like, also surviving capitalism, and also surviving whatever it else is that is going on, and like also facilitating like movements through survival into thrival for other humans and other lives. Like that becomes something where it's like you kind of feel like you can do all of it, because there's not much that you haven't experienced by a certain point in this work. But then if you have a list, then you can just be like, actually that's going to be a no for me, but here's all the, like, if you need this task, like here's all the people who can say yes to that.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of helps with that.
It's great. Yes. I just want to share really quick, because Tasha there's some great comments in there, but Tasha said something that is very, very true. And I feel that is the single mom vibe too here, is one of our boundaries is we feel selfish if we like pause, if we step back, and like even doing things for just ourselves. Like Erin and I love hot springs, but we both know how hard it is for us to actually do that. We love the concept of being able to do that, but then it does come down to like, well, what event will I miss for my kid? I won't be there for this, that. I'm selfish for taking care of myself. So do you have some things we can do?
Yes. So that's a fabulous reflection, by the way. It's Sarah, correct? Yeah, fabulous reflection, because
Tasha said that. Well, Sari, and then Sari spoke, and then Tasha's reflection on the selfishness part, which you hit the nail on the head. I agree. Like, I think especially when we have young kids, there's this feeling of selfishness. I mean, hell, I have a 6-month-old puppy. My kids aren't young anymore, and I'm going to leave him and go on vacation for a week. And I'm like, feel so guilty, right? Like I need the vacation so bad, but I feel so guilty about how it'll affect the dog. That's just a very small example of what it's like for Tasha with 2 twins. But yeah, how do we combat that selfish thing?
Yeah. So I want to talk about this theme that we're talking about, as it also relates to going into a profession where you might be more of an entrepreneur, right? Or you're doing your own business or whatever, especially in death work, where like a lot of times, those of us who go into death work, like we have this huge backpack on, and most of the shit in there isn't even ours, right? And so all these reflections are so good, because like if you just ask yourself, do I know what my barriers are, and just list out everything, even if you're like, well, sometimes my child is my barrier, and I can't really do anything about that because I am taking care of a human being. It's like no judgment, and like let's not worry about can I make this not a barrier yet, right? Just put it all down so you can see it. Like first we got to know what we're dealing with. And all of these reflections are so important when you go into business, because it can turn into harm for you and your clients really quickly. Because I've had people that I've worked with who feel like, because I'm a death worker or a grief worker, I have to be responsible to help all of these people. And we talk a lot about how, first of all, you aren't the only death worker, and thank goodness, because could you imagine being the only person to try to help thousands of people, right? No. This is why when we also talk about competition in the death worker realm, it's like, no, we need as many people as possible, because I can only handle sometimes, talking to my neighbor. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I can't handle even taking clients. And also when I get to that spot, I need to know who can I refer out to. So resources, getting to know your community so you know who does what. And then also knowing when you need to refer people out because it's not your specialty, right? And so all of these great reflections can turn into harm at some point, because you're like, well, I'm feeling all this guilt. I have to take care of these clients that have reached out to me. But ultimately, it's harming you and it's harming them because you might not be the person for them. You might not be the special, your specialty might be not for them. And then you're also putting all this stuff in your backpack again that's not yours. And by the time you take the backpack off and open it up and you realize there's all this stuff that isn't yours, and there's no judgment here, right? But then all of a sudden you have this new problem where you're like, now I'm taking all this stuff out of the backpack, and that takes time to be like, that's mine, that's not mine. Oh, I might have to send this energy back to these people because this isn't mine. So then you're like, well, now I got to take all this time to get to a point where the stuff in the backpack is just mine, right? And that's like its own self-care process, but can also be really tiring if you're already exhausted. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think this is a really, really great metaphor for a lot of things in general, but definitely for death. Yeah.
Mhm.
And especially too, like to take it even a step further when it's personal loss, like outside of the client realm. Like I felt like I don't know. I don't want to say that my mental health was too great before my sister died, but I was like keeping up, right? And it felt like a different kind of stuff in my backpack. Like
Mhm.
this isn't even this just showed up. Like I didn't cause this stuff in my backpack, right? And it's so big. Yeah.
Mhm.
So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I think boundaries are probably the biggest form of self-care, honestly, that we can learn in this entire lifetime, because at the end of the day, it's like you're the person who's in charge of that. I mean, you can come across issues and other people have issues with boundaries, right? There's a lot in boundaries. There's a lot there for a lot of different people. But ultimately, it's like it's your responsibility at the end of the day to create boundaries. If you've never had boundaries, to learn about boundaries, figure out how to what is a healthy boundary, right? If you've never experienced that before. Um, so I think boundaries are huge in self-care. They're also huge in business, right? You got to know when you can say yes, when you can say no. Um, and also for clients. I also think protection work is like some of the like boundary and protection work. There's two things that you do in life, like every day. It's boundary and protection work, which we do that work as humans, kind of like not even realizing that we do it, right? You put on shoes, you go outside, it's protection work, right? So there's these ways that we do that in our normal life. And so we just make it a little grander, right? With like some magic and some spice. Those are the things that have helped me a lot. Really like protection and boundary work. I think also equal embodiment work. And so through those three kind of make like your ring of fire. And I think from there, that's where you can learn really juicy self-care.
So will you explain the last thing that you just said? Because I don't know what that is.
What do you mean?
I probably should. The equal embodiment, or is that what you said?
Oh, like embodiment work on its own?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out like how to actually describe what I've been going through this year, because this year for me has been all about embodiment work. And embodiment work of like, first my team started on a smaller level. Like, do you wear the things that you want to wear? Or are you wearing it because you're worried about what society will think of you, or your parents, or a partner, or friends, right? So we started really kind of small, where they'd be like, okay, my spiritual team, would be like, what if you wore that today? We know you want to wear that and you feel really juicy in that, but it pushes the boundaries of what maybe my parents feel okay with, right? I grew up in a household where we don't really show a lot of skin, and I've been finding a lot of embodiment through showing more skin. So here we are where I'm pushing a boundary of someone else, right? So now we got to do boundary work there. We got to figure out what the issue is. I have to work on doing things that I feel really embodied in so that I can become, right, the most juicy version of myself, because that's going to show up in the work that I do. But also, I got to do some protection work to make sure that the boundaries that my parents are struggling with of me showing more skin, it's not really mine to put in the backpack. Right? So I got to figure out, like, what is my shield of protection of being able to make sure, like, I hear you, I see that, and I'm going to give it back. Right? Does that
I
make
think that last part, I think, is we're having, family funerals. I just got back from a funeral, and a lot of emotions and dynamics come out in that situation. And that concept of, like, that's not really mine. Like, I have I don't even want to call her a stepmother, my dad's second wife, who had an emotional breakdown on the airline, or like on the plane home, where my sister was like shaking when we got off the plane. And it's all because she didn't feel loved and involved. And like, my sister's holding on to that, of it felt like it was coming at her and at us, but it's so hard to explain, or to like not hold on to that emotion. So how do you even start? I mean, I feel like that's a huge tidal wave. Right when you said that, I was like, oh shit, I forgot about that part.
Yeah, Lemeria says it's hitting home for her. Yeah. Do you want to speak for a minute about it, Lemeria?
So for me, the embodiment aspect, I started my own mortuary transport business after I went to death school last summer. And there's not too many other companies that do mortuary transports, but when I worked for one of the other larger companies, they demanded that I cover up my tattoos. They demanded that I not have my mohawk showing. They demanded that I wear a business suit. And those were things that didn't really align with me. And it was really challenging for me to embody what they told me was the expectation of doing this work. And I kind of just said, no, that's not the way it is. So Erin and I talked about scrubs and being able to wear black scrubs to do my job. And so I'll tell you what, half the time I wear scrubs, half the time I wear my fancies. But on top of that, my dad's funeral was May 6th. Now, he died October 29th. So it's been, we waited until springtime in order to have the ceremony so more family could come. But there was that embodiment piece again of how do I show up to a funeral? I'm in the death industry, and I couldn't even imagine what I was supposed to wear or could wear or even had the option to wear. So embodying what felt right to me that day, and then recognizing that maybe what I chose to wear was because of other family members and their expectations and their desires and what they thought was an appropriate thing to wear. So that's it definitely hits home with the embodiment part.
Thank you for sharing. And I guess I want to be clear. I'm not saying like this work is super easy and you're like, yeah, I'm just going to like go out and be embodied and be totally fine, because there's often a piece of safety with that. Like, am I safe to do that also? I guess, I guess for me, I do have privilege to be able to push that bubble, and have been experimenting. Like, what if I just showed up exactly how I want to be? And what does that feel like? And then what does it feel like when I go into certain spaces, right? So yeah, thank you for sharing. It is tough. It's tough with family. It's tough with society. It's tough with work, because also there's a part of the world that is like holding on to the old ways. And when we show up more embodied, I find we're always pushing that. We're always pushing the bubble of the old world. And, there are a lot of people who do all kinds of stuff because they are holding on to the old world. So it can be really hard and scary. Y'all asked me like things that you could do. I have found herbalism and plant magic and working with plants to be so helpful, and there's so many helpful allies that can aid us in this work. I usually have like some herb like tucked in my shoe or in my bra or in my pants, right, or in my pocket or somewhere, or an oil or a spray or something that I am doing to ask for the kind of support that I need for that day. You know, and you guys mentioned baths in the beginning. Like, I mean, ritual baths and ritual showers are great. And also, you know, other like tangible ways. I know a lot of people don't love baths or doing ritual showers. So, you know, drinking a tea, asking for that support internally, and then bringing like a pouch or making a spray or making an oil, right? And interacting with the plants in that way, where you're like, yeah, you can just put a lot, not all, but a lot of plants just straight on your body, you know? Plant brushings are also so amazing to take stuff off of you. It's such an amazing cleansing ritual. It's really, really beautiful. So I've done them on myself. Having someone else do it for you is like a completely different experience. And so
What is that? You said plant brushing?
So if you have, I mean, if you have a garden you can harvest from, obviously like that's ideal, but that's not really
For those of you in Colorado,
yeah.
Unless you live somewhere really nice and have a lush garden.
Yeah. So, you know, if you could harvest from a garden, that's great. But let's take that example. You harvest, say, I'm gonna use lemon balm. Lemon balm is like one of my most favorite herbs to use for any type of like sorrow and mourning and grief.
That's my next question. So prepare. I'm going to say, and which ones do you recommend? So,
Yeah.
thank you. Lemon balm.
So you would take oh here. No, those are too dry. Okay. So say I have lemon balm and I would just brush it, maybe hold it in places that get sticky for you. I know like for me, my shoulders get really sticky. So I like will hold it here, or I'll just like vigorously brush that. But because like we can't always harvest from a garden, I will just go honestly to Trader Joe's has like the best flower arrangements and they're super cheap. So I'll just go to Trader Joe's, find something I know is like okay on the skin, you know, like I've used roses before, but holding that with the thorns can be kind of painful. So I'll grab something that really feels appropriate for that day or calls to me. You know, I'm usually like that person who's whispering to the plants in Trader Joe's, like, okay, this is what I'm going through. Like, can anyone help me? Like, I'm going to give you an offering.
Come home with me.
Yeah. And people are like, cool, she's back, you know? And yeah, I'll just brush, you know, and hold in different places. I like to sleep with them the next night, like put them under my pillow or just have them like lay on top of me. But then, you know, you can get them like kind of just get them a little bit crushed up. I don't know, you know, I just put it in my underwear, like put it wherever, right? To know that like you're carrying that around with you. So plants have been super helpful because they not only can they help us clear so much, but plants teach us so much, and they teach us about boundaries, and they teach us about taking up space, right? Like they take up space in a garden and they don't infringe on anyone else, right? It's like we can all take up space, and my taking up space doesn't have to make it so you take up less space, right? Because that's not taking up space. That's causing harm. Like it's different, right? So yeah, plants have been super helpful for me. I'm like trying to think about all my go-tos. I mean, personally, routine, like creating a good routine around what do I need to be a functioning human in a day, right? That's like the first question. Like, what do you need to be fairly functionable? How can you incorporate that into your day? What does it feel like when you do that for a couple days straight? You know, it's like, oh yeah, I usually feel less crazy and more grounded and like I can have conversations with people, right? And not feel overwhelmed. I personally like to check in with my body. I like to shake things off. Like a lot of it's for me is like clearing, especially in this realm where we are, a lot of stuff is sticking to us. I mean, stuff sticks to us right when we go outside the door. So having a good clearing practice is some of the best self-care. Checking in with my body, right? Where needs to be cleared? Where needs maybe some light movement? Or do I just need to shake it out? I personally like to do like a tarot or an oracle pull in the morning. That's kind of my routine. And really figuring out like, what do you need? Like for me, again, not everyone gets this, right? Not everyone gets exactly what they are trying to do because of other circumstances, but it's like, let's get creative and figure out where we can try to fit that in. So I found over like the last 10 years, when I get up in the morning, I turn my alarm off, but I don't look at my phone for at least, I need like an hour at least. And if I can't get an hour, right, I woke up late or I have stuff to do, I need at least like 10, 15 minutes where I don't even look. Because there's this thing that happens with technology where if I'm laying in bed and I look at my phone the minute I wake up, there is a spirit interaction that happens and it like steals your spirit. And so when you wake up right in the morning, you know, you're like, okay, this is a new day. I'm going to try to do my best. Then you look at your phone. I mean, it just sucks it out, right? So it's like, let's figure out what we need. I need at least an hour of not checking my phone. I need an hour not speaking, like no words, right? If someone tries to talk to me, it's that same thing. It's like, I feel like you're taking this goodness that I'm trying to like hone in for the day first, right? I feel like I'm just rambling. Does any of this make sense?
I think you answered the question about like the mom and the selfishness part for me, because adding routine has been a game changer in our family. I've always been very lackadaisical is probably a good way to put it. And just in the last 2 years, I really started being like, okay, this is this and this is this. And like, you're up at this time and you're out, before I'd be like, it's okay, like blah, blah, blah. And I'd get stressed out. So if you build that self-care into your routine, I love what you said, like, don't even check your phone for the first hour. The world doesn't end. Like I'm
Yeah.
pretty good at like not having my cell phone around me and just like not checking on social media. Maybe not the best for Death Wife sometimes. Thank you, Erin, for being better at that.
Well, I think I'm gonna take that from today
Yeah.
and not, because I get really sucked into social media, and a lot of times I'll post for like our Death Wives posts in the morning, and we post something every day, and then I'll, sit there and look at comments and shit for the first hour, and then I wonder why I feel like I'm running late and imbalanced, right? And like that's such an easy thing to fix. It just requires a little discipline, which I know isn't technically part of our conversation, but what if you're really bad at discipline? Like I am so bad at discipline for myself and my children. I'm like Lauren, like lackadaisical is, I don't even know if that's quite the right word, but I'm more like, go like, what do we need right now? I'm impulsive and I am not disciplined. How do we become more disciplined, Hannah?
I'm also learning. I mean, okay, so there's like a compassionate way to go about that, right? And there's like a harsher way, where my friend and I have been talking about how he calls it coddle culture, where we've started this thing where everything is like, oh, it's okay, like take a self day, treat yourself, do this thing. That is great, and we need that because it's so opposite of capitalism. Like we need that for change. I personally think that we're almost going a little too far on the pendulum, where we are becoming like less disciplined.
Yeah.
And I look at my parents and their generation, and they're kind of like, you would just get up and go do all this stuff that you didn't want to do. And that was life. And I think that's the other extreme, where it's
Right.
like, oh, there are some things that I actually shouldn't have to consent to. But now I think we're going all the way over here. And it's like, at some point, I think personally, as a society, we are kind of forgetting, like, yes, there are all these other factors that influence us in life, and we can't say that they don't exist, because like part of life is that you do have no control over those things. But I think we're getting so far on the other side of the pendulum that we forget, like, but I also do have internal power, and I do have, like, I'm the one that has to cultivate that discipline for my life. This is
Right.
this is my life. Like, we're talking about death work. I am gonna die. And by the time whenever I am at my deathbed or whenever I die, if I didn't implement discipline, right, I'm gonna be somewhere where I probably don't want to be. And
Yeah.
like, for me, that's my greatest fear.
That's a really, really, really good answer. And I like the pendulum. I feel like that happens in so many things. Like we exist on this binary, we're experiencing something in extreme, and then we're recognizing all the things that are wrong with that extreme, like in an over disciplinarian lifestyle. It's like you're not free to express your emotions and you have to get up and do the thing no matter what. And what do we see come out of that is repressed emotion and suppressed trauma, and all of that comes out, ugly. So we can't be militant about it. But then, the pendulum usually before it finds the center, it goes, okay, whoop, right? And it takes some time. And so we get over here and I just am, sharing out loud that I'm realizing that too. I'm so over here. I'm so, and that usually works for me. Like I like to exist in a space of flow and intuition and kind of like making it up as I go. It's just kind of who I am as a person. But then when you bring it to the center and you're like, okay, and what does your life look like? And is that what you want your life to look like? Because you may need to like rope a little bit more discipline in if that's where you're trying to go.
Yeah.
Like
And
that.
I think what's cool is like we also have a lot of options on how to play with that. Like see what works, see what doesn't, right? Like it can be kind of like a curious mindset where, for me, in order to have gotten disciplined for my morning routine, it was like, first of all, I got to a point where I was like, I feel like such shit. Like I am so over feeling this way and I have to fix this. So, I tried a bunch of different things, and finally, like I have an app, and it's called Routines, and it goes off at 7:30, and I put on the list the things that I want to make sure to check off, and it like asks how you're doing. And I know that that's going off at 7:30. It doesn't mean I look at it, my phone. I know like I need my time. But then it feels really good every day. I'm like, yeah, I drank some water. I had my tea. I took my medication, And then like during 2020, I had to change out of your PJs because I started to realize like that was making me feel worse, was to not, it'd be like 8 p.m. and I would still be, I hadn't done anything. And for me, I realized, again, what do you need, right? It's the question. I realized I have to be dressed before 10 a.m. or my entire day is nothing. And that's just me, right? So it's like, it's kind of that same question on like, what are the things that get in the way? And what are the patterns that you notice, right? And that stuff takes time. It takes time to realize. Like it took me probably a good year to be like, oh, I need to get dressed before 10. Otherwise, I don't leave the couch, right?
So true. This is kind of leaning away, but Christine in the comments wrote that she's pursuing this work for the first time in a professional way. And do you have any kind of rituals or spiritual practice to help initiate into this work or into other levels of work as we continue to learn? So like, I get that, like that breakthrough of like, I like a initiation, I guess is the perfect word.
Can you say the question one more time?
I can try. Do you have any kind of rituals or spiritual practice to help initiate into the work or into other levels of work as we continue to learn these new tools along the way?
So I think really like from a beginner's view, if you're going to
Self-initiation.
start doing ritual or protective work, like what are some starters?
Okay. I was curious if we mean like initiation into death work.
Let's
Do
see.
you want to
I can-
clarify?
You want to unmute yourself? Yeah.
Yeah. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm still getting over COVID a little bit myself. So I'm staying off camera for that sake. But first of all, thanks. And I really appreciate this conversation. I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, I would be interested, but I also am familiar with like some general spiritual witchcraft practices around, little things, to build in protection or embodiment or whatever. I was more curious about the like initiation into the work itself. And like, I'm just thinking about like, calling in, protection or ancestry or like that type of thing, like from an initiation perspective. And then I'm also thinking about like, to extend that, thinking forward, and also maybe more helpful for those of you that are here and in this work already. I would imagine like if your specialty is, one thing, and then you start doing another thing, or maybe like I'm taking an abortion doula training, that's like some layer of the work, maybe that's something where you might want some kind of like initiation, spiritual, like, practice or session, or I don't know, group work. I'm just curious, like, since it sounds like you have a wide knowledge of, different kinds of ways people are sort of approaching this, if you have, thoughts around that, sort of like initiating into the practice or different layers of the practice of death work as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. The first thing that comes to mind is whenever we're doing a type of work, there is like, it's like that type of work is its own entity, right? So for instance, your abortion doula, like that's its own entity and energy. And then like if you're going and doing like, say, like more like witchcraft or like ritualistic ceremony, that's its own energy. And so for me at least, like I'm trying to like, I try to honor and figure out like what is the entity I'm working with, what does the energy feel like, and to ask it like, what do you need from me, what kind of offerings do you need, how is it best that I show up, maybe could you teach me like what does your energy feel like in the room, so I know maybe like how my clients might feel. And that, of course, like you won't always know how they feel, right? That's their own experience, but there's like a general energy that's going to be in the room with you. And so it's like, how do I best support you? And you're kind of asking it like as deity, as entity, as teacher, right? So like in death work, to me, like sacred death is like our main teacher or entity, right? And then with that, like to me, like sacred death is always there. I mean, always in like anything we do, but especially any type of death work. So you're like, okay, sacred death, like I got my relationship with you and I'm learning from you. But then what's the energy of the thing that I'm doing? So like my metaphorical funerals, like they are their own entity. Sacred death is here with me, but the funeral is its own thing. So I asked the funeral, show me what are we up to, like what do we need? And it was like, we need plants, we need this, right? This is where you're going to clean your client, you're not going to touch them, but this is how you're going to do it. And so I hope it's not like too simple of an answer, but it's like, you can ask, right? You're the one who's going to be like the channeler.
Yeah.
No, I love that. I really love that. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And you're shamanistic about it, really, I mean, is what I'm hearing, right? And it is, I mean, that is how death work is if you're here for the spiritual part of it. Mm-hmm. Because you're walking between worlds, you've got a leg in each world, and I think that actually really comes naturally to a lot of death workers. And if you don't already feel that way, once you've done some 11th hour work, you may see that grows. It's that 11th hour space where that energy as an entity is the most powerful. And it's like the most beautiful thing we can experience as humans, that I've experienced as a human. I also just want to give a different perspective. I appreciate ritual and ceremony around everything. So I love the idea of like, if I'm stepping into a new corner of death work or a new genre of death work, what intentionality or what ritual can I bring, to that before I begin practicing it? To be honest, I've never really considered that in my own work. one thing that we talk about in class, like as people, because the scope of death doulaship and death work in general is very, very, very wide, from conception of death and pre-planning to a diagnosis through an illness to an actual death, to disposition and everything that entails, and then all of the ceremony around it, and then the continued spiritual work that happens after that, right? So our range is huge, and people will say, I don't know how to step into this part, or I don't know how to step into this part. I think that we often don't know what all we're going to step into when we say yes, right? We're saying yes to the energy and to the call, but that's how we grow and acquire all of those skills over time, is because you know how to do like 60% of this thing that you're saying yes to, and you will be initiated on the job with the other 40%. And you will know it when it is happening. You will know it. So I think the intentionality and the forethought is important and is rich, but really the initiation happens when you are in the death space.
Yeah. That's great, Erin. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah. I would say it's like protective work. Like if you're new to it, salt is your best friend. Like I was doing walk-in mediumship, and I'd never done mediumship that was so quick, it was like 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 20 minutes there. And it was like, usually I'm sitting in 30 minutes or an hour with someone, and this was like, oh, I just saw, 10 people in a row, and I was destroyed. And I started taking salt foot baths. I mean, 5 minutes, right? Like we are all really busy. It's like, let's figure out ways where we can kind of do this on the fly sometimes. And I was just taking a salt foot bath, 5 minutes when I got home. Again, I'm asking the water, I'm asking my spirit team, thank you for today. Like, that was amazing. I'm sending back all of the energy to everybody, right? I have like a visualization that I do, and I take the foot bath. It's a game changer. And like, it's just salt, And so it's like, wash your hands, make a salt spray, take a foot bath. If you don't have a foot bath, right? Yeah, just, I don't know, go outside, pour some salt water on your feet.
That clarity though around what's yours and what's not yours, it seems really simple, but it's so important. And it's like we have to check that maybe 3 times a day, It's like, because it's constant. And I know that I'm really guilty of it. I will put other people's shit in my backpack all day long, and then I will be like, we're fine, until we're not fine anymore, And so that's not self-love. That's not good self-care. It's a lot better to take a step and be like, no, that actually belongs to you. Yeah. Which doesn't, that requires a lot of us, because like triggers are valid. And sometimes it's, if there's adversity coming at you, if there's something difficult coming at you, even if it's not yours, it can be really hard to just be like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. You want a milkshake? Like, what do you do with it? It has to go somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
I want a salt foot bath. So you mentioned lemon balm and salt. Yeah. What other some self-care? I mean, a lot of us, I think, work with plants. But I always love to hear, what works for other people, and maybe learn, new ideas. But especially in that kind of, it's almost like a protection release in a way. Like, you have a space that you have to put these things in. Salt is very good at holding those things away and also breathing into. So do you have any other
plant friends that I like
that do that? Lemuria does. I love rosemary. I'm a rosemary queen.
Rosemary, just salt and rosemary, that's all you need. But I mean, rosemary is such a beautiful ancestral plant, and it's so protective. And again, when we say like, this plant is good for this, it's a little like an allopathic way, which isn't great. So it's like, we have to remember these plants do so much, right? But they do often have like these key things that they're supportive with. So lemon balm, I love lemon balm for grief, mourning, sorrow. Anytime you're feeling like so tender, lemon balm is super helpful. I've also found lemon balm to be helpful if you are a person like me, where you don't really like to be touched. And I mean, just like in any way, like if someone comes up and touches me without asking, I'm like losing it. If you had a day like that, lemon balm is like so helpful to kind of like bring you back to your body in that way. It's a tender. It's like anytime you feel tender. I love linden for like heart supportive, emotional body. rose. I love wood betony. Wood betony is so amazing if we're working on wounds and trauma, and if there's lots of fear, whether you know where that fear is coming from or not. Wood betony is so helpful. Like mixing all these plants and doing like a floor wash in your house is great. Wash your doors, you know. Again, you could just make a spray, like make a quick tea, make a spray. It'll only last for probably like, ideally like 3 days before it's gonna get some bacteria in there. Like who else do I love? Motherwort is really great for also wounds. Motherwort, it's very like queen energy when you're like, I kind of need a safe mother image. Like motherwort helps with that kind of energy. Like trying to think, oh my gosh, sorry y'all, I'm kind of going blank. I really like violets for like some heart energy, like heartbreak energy. Mullein is so great as a death ally. It cleans, it clears. I mean, we used to wash bodies with mullein. It's great for the lungs, which is where in Chinese medicine they say a lot of the grief hangs out. I mean, it's like no coincidence. We have COVID, this thing that affects the lungs, and we're going through a lot of grief, right? There's like another herb that I am spacing. Why?
I just want to add, I love mullein. I think it's beautiful. And I have had 2 neighbors complain because mullein is an invasive weed in Colorado Springs, unfortunately. And when the city worker came, I like printed out a sheet and like explained like the benefits. I was like, well, I have lavender right here. I have yarrow right here. And yeah, that's mullein. And he let me keep it. So sometimes you can fight. But it hurts my heart when different plants are seen as invasive weeds, pretty much. And I'm like, no, we need these. That's such a human thing to do. Again, Erin, how we separate ourselves from plants and that we're better than, like, we're so much better than you that we don't see you as medicine anymore. We see you as a nuisance and a weed that your neighbors are going to call the city to complain about.
See you as material to aesthetize with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chamomile and dandelion. Yes, those are 2 really good ones.
Yeah.
So.
My yard is full of dandelions right now, and it never has been before. And I don't know enough about dandelions to know exactly why I need to keep them, but I know that I need to keep them and that they're healing the soil and that they'll go away when it's time.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, if like you're feeling a lot of feelings and you need some support of like moving feelings through, you know, dandelion and burdock, they're like so good for supporting the liver. I mean, we have to be careful. There are cases where, you know, we don't want someone's liver to be flushing a lot of stuff out, especially with medication. But again, you know, take a foot bath with those plants or do some other thing with them.
Yeah.
But yeah, any plant that's going to help the liver, like everything goes to the liver, right? Your grief, your emotions, everything. So it can kind of help that stagnancy if you feel stagnant.
I love this. We've learned so much in such a short amount of time. And Hannah, I just want to do a shout out. You do education as well. We're so grateful that you came on to talk with us. We're very happy that you are also in the Denver area. For all of you not in Colorado, I'm sorry. Like, we're really cool over here. We have some amazing people.
Yeah.
But if you want to tell everybody about some of maybe your upcoming classes, because like you said, we are a community and we can't all offer the same thing. Like, you have amazing offerings in education that we don't have. And there's so many educators out there, and we want people to get the best spectrum of where their passions lie. So if you want to share of what's coming up.
Yeah, so I do actually have a self-love and herbalism class coming up. It's going to be next Friday, the 27th. I think that's next Friday already. So I do often teach a lot of classes right now. A lot of them were in the beginning of the year, but I have a self-love and herbalism. I'm doing a 3-weekend ancestral veneration class. We're going to connect to ancestors and a lot of that work. And then I do offer it's like a training to do the spiritual death work that I do. It's called Tending Descent. And then, yeah, lots of classes, but it's a little slow right now, which it's okay. And everything that's going on, it's okay. But yeah, I do a lot of plant classes, befriending plants of death, and a lot of like poisonous plant and death classes as well. So yeah.
Your work is so cool. Thank you for
Thank
sharing.
you. Thank
And
you
if
all
you
so
want to
much.
throw your website in the chat so everybody
Oh yeah.
because I think most of your
We wish you
classes,
were in Colorado too.
yeah, are your classes held through Zoom right now too?
Yeah, at the moment they're all on Zoom.
You're in Longmont or Lafayette or another one with the L? I get all the L cities mixed up.
Oh, Littleton.
Oh, you're in Littleton?
I'm in Littleton.
I'm in Littleton.
You are?
Well, I'm technically in Denver, but I'm off like 285 in Sheridan. It's Littleton.
That's amazing.
I'm gonna just throw this out there. We can stop recording if we want to, but have you been to Half Moon Farm yet? And Lem, I don't know if you know about it too. I don't know, but we're gonna go. Oh, Half Moon Farm is where all of the tea tree from water cremation from Be a Tree goes. So we're giving these bodies back to the earth there, and my sister's there, and Lem's dad is there, and lots of people we love are there. And it's supposed to freeze tonight, so we're actually all heading over there to cover the gardens because we don't want everything to die. If you're free this afternoon and want to join us, let me know. It's in Lakewood.
I would love to. That's beautiful. That sounds great.
Okay. Cool.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us.
I'll see you soon then.
Thank you all so much.
Have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you next third Thursday. What month is next? June.
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 I have discipline by then.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll see if I feel like it.